Next on Currents News, the Bishop of Buffalo is out. Pope Francis accepting Richard Malone's resignation after mounting allegations of clergy sexual abuse cover-up. Now the diocese has a temporary new bishop.
My heart just goes out to you, and what I see is a need for a tremendous amount of healing, good conversation, honest conversation, openness.
Bishop of Albany, Edward Scharfenberger, taking over until a permanent successor is named. From details on the resignation to what happens next, we have team coverage. Also tonight, legal scholars testify on Capitol Hill on whether President Trump's actions amount to impeachable offenses, plus a heartwarming Christmas story about family from the wife of a deployed soldier. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm CJ Papa. The Bishop of Buffalo, Richard Malone, has resigned. The change comes just weeks after Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio concluded his Vatican-appointed visitation to the diocese. A temporary bishop now in place in Buffalo as the search for a new one is now underway. We begin our team coverage with Currents News' Emily Druby.
Pope Francis has accepted the resignation of Bishop Richard Malone of Buffalo. He released a letter this morning. I have concluded after much prayer and discernment that the spiritual welfare of the people of the Diocese of Buffalo will be better served by a new bishop who perhaps is better able to bring about the reconciliation, healing, and renewal that is so needed. The resignation comes just weeks after Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio concluded his Vatican-appointed visitation to Buffalo to examine mounting allegations of clergy sex abuse and a possible cover-up. However, in his letter this morning, Bishop Malone said that the fact-finding mission had little to do with his decision to resign. Inevitably, some will surmise that my decision is the result of the recently completed apostolic visitation carried out by Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio at the behest of the Holy See. While I was made aware of the general conclusions of the report, which were a factor in my discernment, my decision to retire early was made freely and voluntarily. Also Wednesday morning, Bishop DiMarzio released a statement in part saying, "This has been a difficult period in the life of the church in Buffalo. As part of this apostolic visitation, we spoke with more than 80 people over a period of several weeks to gather information for this administrative review. It was conducted with urgency as the Holy See directed that this visitation be thorough, with the foremost consideration being the good of the people of the Diocese of Buffalo."
My family just got a little bigger.
The Vatican has appointed Bishop Edward Scharfenberger as the Apostolic Administrator of Buffalo until a permanent replacement is named.
Thank you so much.
In a news conference on Wednesday, Bishop Scharfenberger said that he has known since the beginning of November that he was being considered for the role.
I received a call from the Apostolic Nuncio, Bishop Christophe Pierre, that I was being considered as a possible appointee as Apostolic Administrator, and that he would take that to the Holy Father.
A native of Brooklyn, Bishop Scharfenberger was ordained a priest of the Diocese of Brooklyn in the 1970s. The new apostolic administrator promising transparency and to do a lot of, quote, listening and learning. People in Buffalo calling for this resignation ever since details emerged about a hidden list of accused priests and secret phone recordings. The crisis escalating when his executive assistant leaked documents to the press.
I hope we're not going to have to do a lot more protesting. I mean, we really don't want to. I know people seem to think that we really enjoy this, but we don't.
Bishop Malone, who has led Buffalo since 2012, had resisted numerous calls from clergy, seminarians, and lay leaders in the diocese to step down.
My heart just goes out to you.
Bishop Scharfenberger says he hopes this marks a new beginning for the Diocese of Buffalo.
I would like every parish to be an oasis of security where people can come home and nobody feels left out.
Emily Druby, Currents News.
From the resignation of Bishop Malone to his temporary replacement, the Pope selecting Bishop Edward Scharfenberger to lead Buffalo during this critical time. The Brooklyn-born bishop brings a strong record of combating clerical sex abuse. Currents News' Tim Harfman continues our coverage.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Albany's Bishop Edward Scharfenberger is promising to bring his powerful history of protecting young and vulnerable people from abuse to his new assignment in Buffalo. His first action this morning, assuring Catholics of the diocese that he understands their need for healing.
This family has been suffering quite a bit in recent months and years. And my heart just goes out to you. And what I see is a need for a tremendous amount of healing.
Bishop Scharfenberger outlined what his first step would be to help the diocese overcome the past.
My first priorities will primarily be to listen. I want to hear what's in your heart and what your concerns are, where you think we should go.
Bishop Scharfenberger is taking on the Buffalo mission while he continues as leader of the Albany Diocese. Practices he's put in place there will accompany him in his new assignment.
I want everyone to know that we will treat it with respect. I continue, as I do in the Diocese of Albany, to say, as I do in Albany, if you see something, say something.
The Brooklyn-born bishop was appointed by the Pope to lead the Albany Diocese 5.5 years ago. Building on his experience in the Brooklyn Diocese, he's become a national leader in responding to clergy abuse in Albany. He's established a confidential reporting line, created a victims assistance coordinator to work with survivors, and set up a predominantly lay task force on sexual abuse, among many other initiatives. He's promising action in Buffalo.
If it means clarifying our list, putting names up, putting more information, whatever can be done in a way that's transparent and responsible, absolutely.
As a Brooklyn priest, Scharfenberger was a member of the Diocesan Review Board for Sexual Abuse of Minors. He believes his service in the diocese has better prepared him for his new appointment.
It was emotionally, spiritually, humanly, a very enriching experience for me in my life. And I have to say, it has a great deal to do with my perspective right now.
Bishop Scharfenberger says he doesn't know how long he'll be in Buffalo, but he's vowing to do everything possible to protect people from abuse. Tim Harfman, Currents News.
And stay with Currents News for continuing coverage of the Bishop Malone resignation. We'll have more updates throughout the rest of the week as they happen. You can also follow us online at currentsny.tv. Also tonight, we are waiting word from the Vatican on why the beatification of Archbishop Fulton Sheen is being delayed. The famous television evangelist would have been one step away from sainthood on December 21st. The Vatican is postponing the ceremony without giving a reason. The Diocese of Peoria, Illinois, where Fulton Sheen was ordained to the priesthood, is stating that never has his life of virtue been called into question. The Holy See is expected to have something to say tomorrow. In Washington, more impeachment hearings playing out on TV. The Democrat-controlled House Judiciary Committee is deciding whether to draft charges against President Trump, and they brought in a panel of professors to testify. Karen Kafa reports from Washington.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler kicking off his panel's role in the impeachment inquiry against President Trump.
Never before has a president engaged in a course of conduct that included all of the acts that most concerned the framers.
The witnesses, 4 legal scholars, 3 called by Democrats, agreeing the president abused the power of his office.
We 3 are unanimous.
And warning of dire consequences if Congress does not act.
This is precisely the misconduct that the framers created a constitution, including impeachment, to protect against.
The witnesses invited by Democrats also cut at key Republican talking points, like their argument that withholding aid from Ukraine doesn't amount to an impeachable offense because it was ultimately released.
The possibility that the president might get caught in the process of attempting to abuse his office and then not be able to pull it off does not undercut in any way the impeachability of the act.
Based on the evidentiary record before you, what has happened in the case today is something that I do not think we have ever seen before.
But a witness called by Republicans, Professor Jonathan Turley of George Washington University, saw it differently.
Impeachments have to be based on proof, not presumptions. That's the problem when you move towards impeachment on this abbreviated schedule.
Echoing a sentiment of Republicans on the committee.
The clock and the calendar are seemingly dominating this.
In Washington, Karen Kafa, Currents News.
The NATO summit has come to a contentious end, with President Trump lashing out at Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The Canadian caught on video complaining to other world leaders about the Americans' behavior. Trudeau blaming a Trump news conference for making others late. President Trump was meeting with Germany's Angela Merkel when he was asked about Trudeau.
Well, he's two-faced.
Do you think that Germany is too naive?
And honestly, with Trudeau, he's a nice guy. I find him to be a very nice guy. But, you know, the truth is that I called him out on the fact that he's not paying 2%, and I guess he's not very happy about it. I mean, we'll have a successful meeting.
The president talking about Canada's financial contribution to NATO. He's demanded every nation pay at least 2% of their economic output to support the military alliance. The president has left London now that the summit is over. He canceled a news conference that would have capped off the trip, saying he's already done many. The Trudeau video emerged hours before the press session was set to start. There's a lot more news headed your way. Pope Francis welcomes refugees to a new life in Italy and making sure every child in Brooklyn and Queens has a present under the tree. How you can be a part of the Tablet's Bright Christmas campaign next. Plus, putting others before yourself. A college student does that in a profound way. Her selfless story is coming up. There's other big news at the Vatican today. The Pope is providing new beginnings for dozens of refugees. A jetliner of hope arrived in Rome this morning. Melissa Butts has more from the Vatican in this report that you'll only see right here on Currents News.
Early this morning, at the request of Pope Francis, 33 asylum seekers flew into Rome's Fiumicino airport from the Greek island of Lesbos. They're about to begin new lives, all with a little help from the church. These 33 refugees from the Moria camp in Lesbos were warmly welcomed to Italy by members of the Catholic charity Sant'Egidio and the Vatican's Office of Papal Charities at Rome's Fiumicino airport. Later this month, another 10 will join them. They'll be hosted by the Holy See and Sant'Egidio as part of the Humanitarian Corridors project, which ensures safety for migrants. Finally, after a complicated process, we're happy to welcome you to Italy. This sign is calling us to finally wake up. There are 15,000 people who live in disastrous conditions, and we are fine. Almoner means sharing myself with others, my favorite things, and my personal space. The initiative originally began with Pope Francis in April 2016, soon after he was elected Pope. He traveled to the Moria camp in Lesbos and brought 3 Syrian families back on his plane with him. Soon after, 9 more people followed. As a continuation, in May 2019, the Pope's top charity official, the Papal Almoner, and the founder of Sant'Egidio traveled to Lesbos to visit the migrant reception facilities at the request of the Pope. The Pope holds Lesbos in his heart because he went there. I went to talk to him after I visited Lesbos, and he asked me, years after my visit, what's happened? I told him the situation, and he said, let's give them at least one small sign of hope. Let them come here. Cardinal Krajewski and Andrea Riccardi returned this week to bring these 33 back to Italy. There are Afghan families, a lady from Cameroon and one from Togo. All have lived in the camp for as long as 2 years. Now drawing from the front line of the migrant crisis, the Vatican and Sant'Egidio are giving them the opportunity to restart life. The mission of the Humanitarian Corridors project is to ensure safe travel, to prevent human trafficking, and to ensure that the vulnerable can enter into Italy on humanitarian visas so that they can hopefully obtain asylum and have a better life. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Well, this is for you. Merry Christmas.
You know through the tablet pretty much who the recipients are.
Really makes it possible for young children to receive a little bit of the joy of Christmas.
To make sure that families in need have a happy Christmas, particularly if they have young children, we're already attacking a problem.
Yes, it's that time of the year again. The Tablet's Bright Christmas campaign, which helps kids across the diocese, has begun. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez is here to tell us all about it. First of all, Jorge, thanks for being here.
Thank you, CJ.
And, you know, for maybe our viewers don't know all about it, but how did it all start, Bright Christmas?
Well, it was 50 years ago. Don Sico, Deacon Don Circle. He was the editor of the tablet at the time. It was the late sisters. It was the time of war and poverty. And he thought, you know, how can we help? And he had this idea of asking the readers to send money to the tablet so we could help kids in inner cities in Brooklyn and Queens.
Now, Bright Christmas, raising a lot of money. But Jorge, where does it go?
Well, this is one of the, you know, fun parts of the campaign. People send us letters asking for the, you know, grants to help parishes. It's not personal request. It's a request from parishes, programs associated with the Diocese of Brooklyn, or pastors, the people who are directly working with the children that needs, you know, toys, presents, a Christmas party, all that kind of, you know, fun stuff that we do in Christmas.
That's amazing, Jorge. Now, we heard a little bit before from some of the recipients of Bright Christmas. Let's hear from some others about the good the money does.
The Bright Christmas campaign last year supported our college readiness residential program, as well as allowed us to get gifts for our scholars. It funds our college access programming, which offers them SAT prep, ACT prep.
For us, the Bright Christmas campaign really helps us personalize our programming a lot more, and that's important when we're working with small groups of women who are really in need.
And Jorge, have you heard from any other organizations that receive money from the campaign?
Thanks God, yes. Today I received 2 letters, and as I was saying, those letters, because people describe what they do with the money in those letters, and this is such a wonderful opportunity to know exactly what we are doing with the money. Today I received a letter from Father Rodden, the pastor of Our Lady of Sorrows. They are going to have a Christmas play. They need, you know, all the things that they need for the Christmas play, and then the Christmas party for the kids of the parish. Or for example, we received a letter from Our Children. This is organization that work with incarcerated women, their children, or women that just got out of prison and they are trying to rebuild their life. It's a wonderful opportunity to help.
And Jorge, how do people get involved and where can they donate?
Well, we have, you know, the usual way. You can write your check to the Bright Christmas campaign and send it to 1712 10th Avenue here at the tablet. Or this year we have a new method. We finally got to the 21st century. You can go to the tablet.org website, and there you're going to see a link, Christmas campaign. You just click and do your donation.
Now, Jorge Dominguez, thanks so much. The editor-in-chief of the Tablet newspaper, he is joining us on the show. Now, the Tablet needs your support to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. You can do so by purchasing the paper at your parish or subscribing to the Tablet so that it comes right to your mailbox. You can save up to 55% by having it delivered to your home versus paying for it at church. Go to the website, thetablet.org/home55, or call 877-883-8356. And please check out one of the latest features in the Tablet, the Our Diocesan Family page. That's where you can send in photos of your family receiving certain sacraments such as baptism, First Communion, confirmation, and marriage. For more information and to submit your pictures, go to thetablet.org/Our-Diocesan-Family. And mark your calendar, tomorrow, Thursday, December 5th, Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio will bless the Diocese of Brooklyn's Christmas tree and nativity during a lighting ceremony at Grand Army Plaza. That's at 5 o'clock in Brooklyn. Hey, everyone, get out there to attend. It's going to be a great time. A college student made a big sacrifice for the gift of life. Journey Farrell skipped her final match with her volleyball team at Howard University because she called to donate blood stem cells to a woman suffering from leukemia. The college senior registered to be a donor 2 years ago, and when the call came in, she did not hesitate to help life.
Donating bone marrow, they think is really painful, and it's a really, really easy thing to do, and you're saving somebody else's life.
Journey is fine and says she's proud to aid a patient suffering from blood cancer. The U.S. bishops have stated that the church has long supported using stem cells from adult tissue. They only oppose research that exploits or destroys human embryos. Pope Francis says practicing Christians should never turn to fortune tellers or psychics. Today, during his weekly audience in St. Peter's Square, he said the temptation of magic affects not only those of little faith, but the devout as well. From the Pope Mobile, Pope Francis greeted many babies like this one, all bundled up to resist the cold. The temperature in the Eternal City is starting to drop. Then the Pope gave his catechesis on a reading from the Acts of the Apostles. He reflected on the stories, recalling the relationship between the faith and the practice of magic in the early days of the Church.
Forse qualcuno di voi mi dirà, ah sì, questo della magia è una cosa antica. Oggi con la civiltà cristiana questo non succede. Ma state attenti, Io vi domando, quanti di voi va a farsi il tarot? Quanti di voi vanno a farsi leggere le mani dalle indovinatrici, a tirare le carte? Anche oggi, nelle grandi città.
The Pope reminded those present that the temptation of magic affects not only Christians of little faith, but also devout Christians. He explained these practices are contrary to the faith because they damage the person's relationship with God. They show a person's lack of trust in his providence.
La magia es incompatible con la fe. Dios no se da a conocer a través de las prácticas ocultas, sino que se nos revela como amor gratuito. Quien elige a Cristo se abandona confiado en la mano de Dios.
The Pope recommended reading the book of the Acts of the Apostles attentively. He says some of the stories are real gems. The Acts of the Apostles reflects on St. Paul's ministry in Ephesus, which was a famous center for the practice of magic. Still to come, right here on Currents News, the wife of a soldier who won't be home for the holidays shares her creative way to have her family together for Christmas. And finally tonight, snapping that perfect photo to create that perfect Christmas card is something we all do. But a wife and mom from Florida finds a creative way to include her husband, who will not be home for the holiday. Julie Salmon has that story.
Danielle Cobo loves Christmas. The tree goes up after Thanksgiving. Her twin boys, now 2.5, old enough to enjoy family traditions.
These are the memories that we're starting together as a family. You know, our kids are at an age where they're starting to know who Santa is, and they're starting to, enjoy the Christmas lights.
It will be her first Christmas without her husband. He left in early 2019 for a one-year deployment, serving overseas in the military as a Black Hawk pilot.
Every time you go to bed, you're constantly reminded that they're not here, and every time you have a tradition that you normally do and they're not there.
Phone calls from her husband are sporadic while he's deployed. He misses moments and traditions.
The holidays are hard, and it's hard when you're doing it alone.
She did not want him to skip the family Christmas photo.
I said, just can you take a photo of you in your uniform with your hand out? And he really had no idea what I was doing.
Her Christmas cards feature her with their twin boys, the other half her husband as he serves our country.
Even though we're miles apart, we're still close together. We're still a family unit, and our hearts are always in the right place.
She wants others to realize soldiers make sacrifices, and so do their families.
We're just trying to hold it all together. It's a sacrifice amongst everybody.
That's Julie Salmon reporting, and Cobo says she wants everyone to think about the soldiers and their families who are making sacrifices every day. That is Currents News. I'm CJ Papa. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.